A couple weeks ago, I did a life update video where I talked about why I hadn't been posting recently. One of the reasons was that I was in the process of setting up a company here in Finland, and I was just a bit preoccupied and just wanted to focus on that. I thought I would give a quick update on the process of setting up the company. And I'm not going to go into a lot of details because these things will change over time, but just wanted to give you my thoughts and ideas about how it went. I am like the most unsuccessful serial entrepreneur. I'm always thinking about setting up a company, but I almost never do. So I come up with this idea of setting up a virtual accounting company because I wanted to start doing something, but I wanted to have my own business. I didn't want to work for someone else, but I wanted something that would give me freedom and flexibility, something I could do from anywhere. And my background is accounting, so I thought, yeah, let me give it a shot. So I started working on this. There's a business plan book that I like, and I was kind of going through it. It's a bit detailed, and you can get really bogged down into lots of minutia. And I was kind of going through that process of trying to write this detailed business plan and not really making much progress when I heard about a course being offered by Salo that would help you if you wanted to set up a business in Finland, and it was geared towards immigrants. The course was being offered in English and in Russian. So I signed up for the course. It was a 4-week course. We met once a week. And I kind of liked that idea because I thought, okay, right, I'm going to give myself the 4 weeks and basically just do whatever we talk about in class. And then by the end of the 4 weeks, my hope was that I would have a business up and running. So that's what I did. And by the end of the course, I did have my business up and running. And so I just want to kind of talk through a little bit about the process in case you're thinking about doing something similar. I think the first step you need to do if you're going to set up a business is find an accountant. So I found a Finnish accountant that does business in English, which is actually more difficult than it might sound. Originally, a few years ago, I was trying to set up a business to do some consulting work, and I could not find an accountant that would return my calls. So I actually had given up on it at that point. Through Business Salo, they gave me a list of some potential accountants. I think one was in Salo, but mainly in Helsinki and other places in the country. And through that list, I found an accountant. And so that was step one. When you set up a company, you can either do it online or you can send in a paper application. It's cheaper if you do it online, so I recommend that you do it online. However, I recommend that you actually print out the paper application and complete the paper application so that when you go to do it online, you already know what you want to say. And the paper application, you can get it in English. When you go to do it online, there is no English version. It's only in Finnish, which is also another reason why it's kind of helpful to have already, written out your answers in English on the English version, so that I think it'll be a little bit easier when you're trying to fill out the online version. I've done my fair share of consulting / interim work when I lived in the UK. And so actually I've had a couple companies in the UK. So I'm familiar with kind of setting up limited companies. And even with that familiarity, it probably took me 2 to 3 hours to complete the paper application because I was kind of reading all of everything. And just trying to understand, what they were asking for. Once I did that, I actually then got in touch with my accountant because there were a few questions where I'm not really sure what the answer is. So I I understand the question, but I'm not sure what the right answer is. So, for example, one of the questions they ask is, how many shares in the company do you want to issue? And I don't know, should I issue 1 share? Should I issue 10? So that's something where I asked the accountant, well, what's traditional in Finland? And if I remember correctly, the answer was 100. So that kind of makes it easier, because then if you end up issuing, if you bring in partners or things later on, you can just divvy up the shares. If someone's going to have 20%, then, you give them 20 shares. So, there were some questions like that where I wasn't quite sure what the best response was. So what I did was I had printed out, like I said, I printed out the paper application, I'd filled it in, and then after I went through it with the accountant, I then kind of like crossed off where I wanted to make changes, and then kind of had my final revised document. And that conversation with the accountant took, I think, about 45 minutes to kind of go through the application. Okay, so once you've got your paper application completed and you just need to enter it into the online system, you need to go to PRH, which is the Finnish Patent and Registration Office. And from there, you will get the online form that you're going to complete. When you go to complete this form, you definitely need a Finnish speaker with you. And I would say you probably want someone ideally from your, business Salo or business Helsinki type organization who's used to setting up companies, so that they know, exactly what to fill in. I wouldn't probably ask your next door neighbor, because they might not be sure. I'd want someone that's, this is not their first time. They do it professionally. So that's my recommendation. Now, in order to do it online, you need to have a Finnish social security number, online banking, and you need to be able to identify yourself digitally. So if you have all those, which, most people, once you're settled in Finland, will have those credentials, then you can do it. Because you also have to pay online via your bank. In terms of setting up a company, or let's say doing business, there are different forms of business that you can have. So I don't want to get into that here, but if you go to, I'm going to put the website, a link to the website, so you can kind of look at it and read through. But again, like I said, even if you think you know what you're doing, definitely you should get a professional to help you when you're doing it. So once you've done the application and you've submitted it, immediately you get an U-tunnus, which is like your company registration number, or like a taxpayer ID number. And so once you have that, then you could sort of start moving forward. What I didn't realize was once you have that number, your application gets checked and then gets approved. And part of the whole process, actually, I should have mentioned, is that when you're doing it, you need to come up with a name. And as part of the approval process, they have to approve your name. And when you are submitting your application, you have to submit 3 names. And there's like a name checker, so you can kind of check to see if anyone else has a similar name. So you have a pretty good idea that your name is going to be accepted, even though you have to submit 3 names and you don't know. They might actually select, maybe your first name gets rejected and they take your second name. They will accept it in the order that you give it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And I also think when you're thinking of a name, I would also check to make sure that there's a domain that's useful. Like, let's say if you wanted the name Finland, let's say your company is going to be called the Finland Company or the Finnish Company. So step 1, make sure the name is, you can get the name, when you register the company, but then at the same time, make sure that there's a domain that's close that you can use with that company. That's my recommendation. So to double check that there is a domain available as well when you're picking the name of the company. So when you submit and you get your taxpayer ID number, the next thing is to set up a bank account. What I did is I think I'd say I registered like on a Friday, and then I went to the bank maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday of the following week. And the bank told me actually, it hadn't been approved yet. I thought because I had my taxpayer ID, that's all I had to do. But no, it has to go through, the official process and get approved. And that takes, I'm going to say, close between 1 and 2 weeks. So until that's done, you actually can't set up the bank account. But then you'll get a notification. Actually, my banker said that he'll keep checking, and then once he sees that it has come through, he'll send me a note that it's okay and I can come into the bank and open the account. I also discovered there's this website called Vire. I'll put a link to that as well. And from there you can check the status of your company formation, and it will show that it's pending, and then once it's approved, it'll show on there that it's approved. So overall, it's not a terribly difficult process if you have support from someone who is used to helping people set up businesses. Like I said before, it took me about 2 to 3 hours to just read the paper application very carefully and complete it. I then spent another 45 minutes asking detailed questions of the accountant. And then when I went in to do the online form, I'm going to say maybe that took an hour to just kind of type everything in, log into the bank, get the payment through and all of that. So, not that difficult. And so let's see how this business venture goes. I have high hopes that it will be successful. And hopefully, if you are thinking about setting up a business, that you go and speak to your local support in your municipality, and hopefully they'll be as supportive and helpful as mine have been. If you have any questions that I didn't answer, and again, I tried to keep it a bit high level because these things will change, and I don't want to give out-of-date advice. But you can always check the website that I'm going to link down below as well. And good luck. That's it for this week. Thanks for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.